Awesome. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it is pounding down. So it's bringing good energy for the environment and good energy for the crops. And so before we move on to the wheel and the map and understanding, you know, our place within the universe and how to understand the universal energy, I just want to hear from you guys quickly. Let's get a couple of quick shares. Someone who hasn't shared yet tonight, how are you feeling right now after the breath work, after the movement? Maybe Amber and Demi, you want to share quickly?
I feel really good.
Awesome. So good.
Yeah. Love it. Raylene, you want to share?
I was actually a bit anxious this afternoon and I wasn't sure why, but tonight it's sort of gone. So I'm very thankful.
Awesome. That's great. That's so good to hear. And maybe Shay and Beck?
Bloody awesome.
Feeling very wiggly.
Very wiggly.
Love it. Awesome. So good. And I just realized the joke. If you go back into the chat, Shay wrote, "You're pooing next to your fork." I only just got that. So that's so funny. I love it.
Yeah.
I think
Thanks for sharing, guys. And just to highlight what Raylene shared, I think it's really significant to look at, you know, that often we can get stuck in these emotional states, such as, I know I can definitely feel the anxiety and the fear and the denser emotions, yet we have the power literally to shift that through our physiology, through our physical structure. We can do that with our breath at any moment and raise the energy up, shift our nervous system, shift our state, or as we've done in the last weeks, really calm that down and slow down the breath, slow down the breathing. And so this is what we really want to highlight in these 12 weeks is that, you know, we have the power, you have the power to create the life that you want and to shift your state at any moment that you want. And ultimately it's a practice. It's a practice and it's an art. That's why it's called self-mastery, because, you know, if we just were born with it, which innately and intuitively we are as kids, but we've got to look at the larger social structure that has indoctrinated us and conditioned us not to be our full self and our full expression. We're told to sit in our place and listen to authority and do as we're told and only put our hand up when we're told to talk to, you know. So we really got to undo a lot of this patterning and a lot of this conditioning to just allow our heart, again, remember the etymology, we have art in heart. So it's our creative heart that we can create the art of our life. And as an artist growing up, I was really big into art. I love creating, drawing. And then I didn't express it for a long time. And when I started to really tap into the energy of creation and creating art, I felt joy again. I felt really happy. I felt really fulfilled in my life. And that's when I realized, you know, my life and your life is the most beautiful canvas. And we get to choose the life that we want to live and create magnificent pieces of art just with what we do with our time and with our energy. Is that making sense? Everyone following? Cool. So given that it's the full moon in Leo, I wanted to really map out the understanding of energy and what that means. What is energy? Well, we all just expressing energy by dancing and moving. You know, you might feel different types of energy. Remember, emotion is simply energy in motion. So it's the emotion that we're moving through, that is moving through us, that we can feel because we're innately intuitive, feeling-based creatures. So the emotion is the energy that we're feeling that is in motion, right? Simple understanding of energy. And I made this cool little presentation that I want to share with you guys, because the most beautiful form of energy that we do have is light. And when we really start to begin to understand who am I, which we explored in the book in chapter 1, these simple questions, who am I, what am I here for? We begin to see that we are electromagnetic beings of light. What does that mean? That we're energy, that light, is emanating from us when we're in coherence and when the energy is flowing freely through us. Okay, we can begin to understand that we are vehicles or vessels or channels for love, for art, for creation, for light to shine through us. Okay, that's why if you went into a room and it was pitch black, you wouldn't see anything, right? It would be totally black. And it's only until there's light that we can begin to perceive the world as we know it. And so we're going to break that down a little bit more simply for you by understanding what element makes up the entirety of the universe. Makes up our human body, makes up the animals, makes up the plants, makes up the stars, makes up molecules of water. And that is the atom, as we all know it. Proton, neutron, electron. Kind of looks like this in school. And what that is the little balls, the neutron and the nucleus and the proton and the electron, which science has separated. They have separated these and labeled energy, which is 99.9% space. It is fractions of light. What does that mean? And why is that relevant to understanding who we are so we can move forward? Well, what you got to understand that this is one of our best depictions of what an atom looks like. But on a deeper comprehension, when we really flick through it, it can be perceived more readily like a ripple. And I kind of went over this in the event that was happening in Yeppoon that you guys came to. But it's like when you throw a stone into the river, it's like a ripple of vibration or a pulse. So it's like a wave. Remember, a wave is not what something is, it's what something does. So it's the movement. And when we look at our bodies, we are always moving, right? We're breathing, inhale, exhale, we're moving, shaking, dancing. We are energy. We are made up of, 70 trillion cells of energy. We're made up of 100,000 trillion atoms, contained within our being, right? And so when we start to understand this through understanding energy, we begin to see that all energy has a shape or a design like a donut. So this is what is called the torus field. Torus field. I'm going to write this down, or you guys can write this down too. T-O-R-U-S or toroidal. T-O-R-O-D-I-A-L. And that's why we have a torso, because this is the same energetic pattern that shows up in our physical being, as well in our planetary being, as well as in all patterns of nature. And we went through this in the patterns through, the example is the apple, which I'll show you in a moment. We've got the man, and I'll flick through, I'll show you, we've got the apple. Here's a great example. So this pattern shows up in all fruits and vegetables. It shows up in all plant species. And this is the same pattern that makes up your physical body, okay? And so when we begin to understand this and comprehend this, this becomes a map so that we can understand and comprehend who we are. Remember those deeper existential questions that make up our reality. Once we begin to understand these, then we can tap into them and harness them and make use of the function of the energy. So last week, Amber spoke to the chakra systems as the energy systems in our body. And if you've been doing the homework every week, Amber's been sharing a sound bowl meditation, starting at the base, the root, which is red, the sacral, which is orange, and moving up to the solar plexus this week. And then next week, we'll be doing the green heart energy field or chakra, which is related to the heart. And so you'll notice that this is a color of the rainbow. All the chakras are the colors of the rainbow. And remember, you only need to go outside and look at a rainbow in real life and realize, wow, how magnificent is this rainbow? It's like, it's the epitome of magic in the world, right? And we begin to question, wow, where did the rainbow come from? Why is the rainbow here? Who made the rainbow, right? And we've got to understand that it is a refraction of light, okay? You guys following me? Just like the rainbows in the body, the energy centers in the body have a rainbow element. They're not stagnant or stationary as the science has led us to believe, but they are on a spectrum of light. And we know that humans can only see a very limited spectrum of light on the whole spectrum of light that is out there, such as UV rays, gamma rays. There's a whole selection of light that is not visible to the human eye. Yet there is a small, tiny little spectrum that we can see, okay? And that is from at the base, red, and at the top, ultraviolet, and everything in between that we see in the rainbow. So I'm drawing these parallels from nature to the human body, as we can see here, to recognize that we are a part of nature, to recognize that we are beings of light, but really got to ask the question, what does that really mean? Okay? Well, when we understand the system of energy, I'm just going to stop the share screen. I've got a little map that I drew up for you guys, and can you all see that? I'm going to show you in this map how we can understand it to apply it to our own lives. Now, in here, you'll notice that I've drawn a, this is what's called a plane of inertia. In electronics, we call it the plane of inertia. And it's also called the equilibrium point. Just imagine, you know, they talk about our nervous system as an electrical system in the body that is communicating to all our organs and all our cells. The nervous system has and reacts like a battery. So it has positive and it also has negative, right? So at some point in a battery, any battery, there is an equilibrium or a middle ground where the energy is not positive or not negative, but it's at 0 point. This is 0 point. This is the point in the middle that equals, that balances the two out, right? So when we have a sine wave like this here, the top to the bottom is what we call an amplitude. So this is an amplitude, and here to the next wave over here, that is called the frequency. How often does it peak? Does it hit the crest? This is what's called a crest. When you're driving your road and you see the sign crest, it means you're at the top of the peak before it starts going down again, okay? So this is the crest, and what happens every crest, that is called the frequency. So when we understand that all light rays, whether it be ultraviolet or it be red, they have a vibration. That is a different vibration with a different frequency. So an example is red will look something like this, whereas ultraviolet will be like this. Everyone following? Can you see that? Oh, there we go. So I'm drawing with my left hand, so please be gentle on me. It's not the most attractive piece of art, but I'm doing my best. Okay? So when we understand that everything has a vibration, so too does emotions. Remember the energy in motion, such as fear or shame or anxiety has a denser vibratory frequency, as opposed to, you know, what we were all feeling when we were dancing. Joy and ecstasy and fun and love has a higher vibration. It's not good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse, but it's just different, right? We can acknowledge it's a different vibration of energy, okay? And so when we start to understand that, we can apply this map, this model, to understand our place in nature, okay? So also on this map, we'll start to recognize when we understand energy at its essence that all energy never has a starting point or an ending point, but it is, just as this map shows, is infinite, meaning that's just simply changing or transforming. It's just changing energy. So an example of this is when you have ice. Let's use H2O as the prime example. We have ice. It's very physical. I relate it to the physical part of the world where it's very hard. Imagine you have a big ice block. You can feel it. It's very dense. It's very hard to move. You could push it. You could touch it. You could see it very clearly. Now, if that energy was to transform or change or shift, the H2O would melt down and become water, which is a different form. It's more fluid and organic, and I relate that to the emotional or the intellectual. where you know it exists, but it has a different, it just has a different energy to it. It has a different feeling. It's more fluid, like, you know, your tears, or it's a different emotion. And then the final evolution of H2O, when it becomes mist, you can't see it, but we know it's there. Some of us can see it. It might be humidity. It's still H2O. It's still energy. It still exists, but it's a different form. So ultimately, energy never dies or ends. It just simply transforms and changes shape, right? So when we understand that, then we can start to see, or we can find where we are on the map, because this is just a three-dimensional representation of understanding energy. And when you recognize that the holy science, again, I'm mapping this out for you very simply at introductory level, but I highly recommend that if you want to dive into this deeper and understand it even more, there's a fantastic book by a man who's passed away now. He's a Swami, Sri Sukteswar. Sri Sukteswar. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but he's an Indian man. He was a teacher to Yogananda. He's passed away a long time ago. He wrote one book in his life, and it's called The Holy Science. Now, this has been around through the ancient texts, the ancient Vedic texts, for a long, long time. Been passed down through the ages, this information around electromagnetism. This is what this is. This is understanding energy. And then there has been many, many other predecessors who have also, in the scientific world, confirmed this same teaching. Okay? So what I love about Santos Bonacci, who's a present-day astrologer, he maps out the astrological chart over the top of this to recognize that this system, did anyone recognize that? Anyone see what that shape is? Can you see that? Remember the torus field? Does anyone see the torus field in that? So we've got the top, the bottom. This is a torus field, right? So when we understand that the energy here is the 0 point, or in religion, they call this the crucifixion or the cross. This is the plane of inertia. This is the heart. This is the heart center of our human body, right? And so down here is the red shift or negative. Up here is blue shift, positive. So as the energy rises, it actually spirals up the body through the heart, and then shifts direction, goes the other way, spiraling to the top, and then filters back around, whilst at the same time going in contrafugal direction. So it goes both ways. Now, this is a two-dimensional drawing, but just imagine this as a three-dimensional donut, okay? So this map can be applied to all areas of life, and in the future weeks, I'm going to show you how you can apply this to the world map, as well as the astrological map. Are you guys following me? Cool. So what I want you to do, because in the astrological map, we all have a star sign, right? Which is the star signs of the zodiac, the sun sign. Just write in the chat section what your sun sign is. I'm a Capricorn. Amber's a Virgo. Okay. And I want to show you how, I've only done half, but really important to recognize that everything starts in Aries at the equator here. I don't know if you can see that. And we go from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Now, the relevance of this is that remember I talked to you about the science, the cycles and the seasons that we're locked into. The sun rises every day on the east. We can't change that. We can't change when it rises or when it falls. So every day the sun rises in the east, like clockwork, goes around the cycle all the way back until it sets. It sets in the west and goes down nighttime and then daytime, 24-hour cycle. This is like a clock, okay? And just like we have the clock, we have the yearly cycle, which is 12 months. We have the 12 zodiac signs, it goes all the way around, as well as the seasons, 4 seasons. So we've got spring, where Aries is in spring, energy is rising. And we have summer, where it's at its peak, 12 o'clock, midday. And then it goes down, it goes over the equator. Then we go into fall and winter, and then back into spring. Okay? Now, why is this relevant? Well, we've got to recognize that the moon right now is in Leo, when Leo is a fire sign. So all of the elements, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fit into this model as well. Then we can see that Leo is a fire sign. In summer, this is related to 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock, where the energy at that time of day is really hot, really high in the sky. It's really strong energy. So we can recognize that where the moon is right now, it's going to be a really strong fire sign. It's going to be burning strong. And why is that relevant? And we can recognize in our lives, well, if there's emotions coming up, then we can relate it and understand it through what is happening in our environment, and recognizing that what is happening in our environment can also be happening within us, because we are naturally a part of our environment. And we know through so many studies that the moon does affect human life on this planet. So too do the stars, right? We know that the moon, for example, when it's full, we have higher tides, we have more emotional response in our human behavior. They did a study on this where they showed that people on the planet, they had higher recordings of criminal activity and crazy behaviors when it was a full moon. Okay, so we know that the energy is stronger. It's pulling in energy through the moon. Now, another area that I want to just relate this to is the human body. So remember, I didn't go into this in the free one in Yapun, but remember I said this is like a sine wave, which looks like, remember at the start, from here to here, like a serpent, like a snake. Okay. Now remember that everything in the universe is functioning in vibrations. Vibration, frequency, and waves. It's pulsating. And so when we understand the root of the word vibration, we can understand that it comes from the Latin vibration, which is the vibra is a viper. And a viper is a snake, is a serpent. That's why in Australia, they recognize the indigenous people, they've been sharing this through the dream time, that is the rainbow serpent that started the universe, right? Because they understood energy. This is the snake or the serpent, that is the rainbow colors that runs through our bodies. They understood this and they knew this. All indigenous cultures have known this for a long, long time. I'm getting close to finishing, but I wanted to share that I go into this in a lot more depth in some videos on Earth Heroes TV, which you all have access to. And one of the videos that I assigned for the next week's homework is Patterns of Nature, where you can go into this in more detail, but I'm just covering the surface today. And so when we apply this to our own body, Aries, or at the top is ultraviolet, is in the head, and then it works all the way down to the base where Pisces is at the 2 feet at the bottom of the feet. And so now we're in Leo. Leo literally aligns with the area of the body at the heart. Okay, that's why they always say Leo, lion, heart. That's where they get the saying from. It's all of this information which has, been, in my belief, kept from us by design, is now all coming into our awareness, into our consciousness, to enable us and assist us to move through our current times, so that we know who we are, we know why we're here, we know what our purpose is, and we can move forward with a little bit more ease and grace in life, with more awareness. And with all that it takes, is we know from the words consciousness, it comes from our conscience. Our conscience is, simply put, our gut instinct, our intuition, that inner feeling. Intuition is just ultimately what is happening inside the body that is speaking to me, that is either serving a purpose to be, you know, explored or released or let go of or brought back home or have a little bit more love. And so when we recognize that we're physical beings, that means we can shift our physical state any moment at any time. We are also very much emotional. Like I know I can be really emotional. Amber helped me the other day. I had a lot of emotions coming through. I was crying a lot. And normally I never cry. I put on a brave face and I'm a tough guy, you know, I'm a man, so to speak. And what I recognize is that I had been conditioned in a society that didn't allow space for the true emotions to be fully expressed. And so I would condition myself, subconsciously tell myself that I need to suppress and oppress all of those deeper emotions. And it wasn't until I was doing these practices that we're doing that I had a support from Amber to help me go deep into the breath work, deep into the story of the past, and allow these emotions to come through. The energy that is in motion that I had held on to, I'd literally swallowed and held on to really firmly, now had finally, you know, 20 years later surfaced and come up to be fully expressed and let go of. So when we recognize that the moon is in its, where it is in its cycle and what it's doing, it's currently getting full and it's in Leo, it's very strong, it's a fire energy, then we can make use of the function of that energy for our own healing, for our own benefits. And what I mean by that is we can't really thrive in the world until we've really let go of all of the past unresolved emotional trauma that has been holding us back to move forward, to live a life in alignment with our dreams and desires. Okay, because what happens is we are playing out programs 95% of the time. We're going to go into this in more detail in coming weeks because it's 7:05 now, but I really want to highlight that we've got to recognize that we have all been brought up in a world that it's very likely there was moments that didn't serve us in love. What does that mean? Well, it's likely that, you know, we had these feelings of rejection or abandonment or not being good enough or not, and based upon that something someone did or something someone didn't do, where we felt a sense of lack. And this is in our own psychological mind, our intellect that is holding on to this. And so we've got to look at what are the tools that can enable us to let go of the past, have an awareness, and then look at the patterns that we want to create in our life moving forward. Michelle?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shay. Yeah, just to add to that, I think more than anything, the thing that has helped me in my life is having these tools and practices to create space, because ultimately I feel that we're always going to be working on these patterns and programming. It's not that we do one thing and they're gone forever. It's a constant reflection and a constant peeling back of the layers. And so the importance of a daily practice and the importance of coming back to these practices to give space, so that when we're coming back into these patterns that keep resurfacing, we can actually have the awareness of like, wow, I'm coming into that pattern again. I thought I was past that. But if we give ourselves the time to honor ourselves and to honor our daily practice, then we can actually have an awareness of what's coming up. And I'm not perfect. Like, you know, I have days where I skip my practice and I know it, because I'm like just something might happen and I'll just go straight into like 5-year-old me or 10-year-old me or something, and I'll react like a child. And then I'm realizing, oh, I haven't created any space. I've literally created no space between me and this reaction that's coming up, me and this old pattern. And so by creating daily practices, then we can really create the space to have awareness of what's coming up. But also to speak to that is the daily practice, in my experience, has sometimes become it's like this daily practice is using it as a reflection, but not using it as an avoidant of what's playing out. so just to become aware of the patterns and do your practice, but also own your stuff as well. You know, it's like, yeah, holding that and being honest about that and being open. But yeah, that's all I have to share on that pattern piece.
Yeah, that's a really good point there that Amber makes, and we want to open this for you guys to share before we close out, or before we go through the homework and then we close out. But essentially, the importance of repetition and consistency, a consecutive pattern of creation that you want to bring into being. So oftentimes it takes a lot to become aware of what our patterns are from the past. And the simple way to know, it's like, what shows up in your life? What are your relationships like? You know, are they, you know, do you have emotional triggers come up at times, whether it be anger or rage, or, you know, joy and love, sadness, grief? What is it that's actually present in your life right now? And that is a clear representation of patterns from the past.